Ask that your Holy Spirit would be here tonight and just accompany everything that happens. Lord, we love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, we're going to ask our administrators to come to the stage. They've willingly made themselves available to hear from you and answer any question that you have. As Dr. Chantel's already said, we established this forum called Current. When there's any current issues that we believe need to be discussed here on campus, or even some issues that are off campus that where students have a desire to talk about it. And one of our rules here for Current is to keep it hot. We ask you to keep it hot, and that is humble, open, and transparent. And that's what we're wanting, okay? We want humility, we want openness, and we want transparency. So when you ask your questions, when there is conversation and dialogue, again, we ask you to keep it hot, humble, open, and transparent. Let's give a warm welcome to our administrators that are willing to be here.
Is this on?
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for being here. I just want to thank our chaplains for very quickly sponsoring this current meeting so we can have a chance just to dialogue together as PUC administration and of our wonderful student body. I was going to introduce my administrative team. I think you pretty much all know me, but I'm Heather Knight, and I've been lucky enough to serve here as president for 7 years. Before coming here, I served as provost at Andrews University in Berrien Springs, Michigan, and prior to that, I spent 18 years as an administrator and an English professor at the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California. There are any Stockton, Rhode Island people out there. And I've kind of been in and out of the Adventist system in terms of my own education. I grew up in New York City, went to New York City public schools, then went to Howard University, a big secular institution, and then transferred my junior year to a Seventh-day Adventist institution like you all are here. So I've kind of had a chance to be in a big secular school, then in a really nice Seventh-day Adventist school, Oakwood University. Then I had a chance to do my master's degree at Loma Linda University. That's how I got to California back in 1982. And then I did my PhD at Stanford University in English. So I've had a chance to kind of be inside and outside, and one of my goals really being here is to really bring best practices to PUC. So what works, whether you're inside or outside of the Adventist system, and what constitutes, I want to say, the best of both worlds. Right here I have my CFO, Dr. Dave Lawrence. Dave, could you stand? And Michael Lawrence, right? That's his claim to fame here. And he came to us from Loma Linda University where he served as controller. So we were very, very happy to have him to join us here to be the CFO. He has an MBA, also a doctorate in education, specializing in school finance. Thanks for being here, Dave. I then have Vice President Walter Collins. And you may not know Walter that well, but Walter is our VP for Advancement and Alumni. And he's been here about 3 years with us. David's been here about 6 years. Came in here after I came. And Walter, kind of like myself, has worked outside the Adventist system a bit as well. He went through K through 12 in the Adventist system at Newbury Park, but then went to UC Berkeley, where he did a degree in political science and minors in astrophysics and music. So he's a kind of rocket scientist here on the side, okay? Just to be aware of that. And he has served as the CEO of United Way in Santa Rosa, and also in orchestra management. I managed to hire him away from the California Symphony. So again, interesting background, and again, a wide set of perspectives there. been here about 3 years with us. But she also worked in the admin system at La Sierra University in many different positions in PR, and she was also a vice president there of student services. So she brings a wide background as well. She's also worked outside the church system in healthcare management, and so we were very happy to grab her from healthcare management back into the academic system to serve as a VP here at PUC. So thanks, Jen. She's our VP for enrollment and marketing. Services VP. Again, she's also has a doctorate, has served as a principal, and also worked for Walla Walla, our big competitor, Walla Walla University for a number of years, and really enjoys working with young people. And so I feel really good to have a great team here with me. And again, we just want to start a dialogue with you about academic freedom. That's the topic that we were asked to address. When we marched our office, to my office yesterday, and I said, yeah, let's get together, let's talk about this, and perhaps I could just start a bit by maybe defining what academic freedom is. Is that a good place to start, or do you want to start somewhere else?
Good place to start. Great place to start.
Okay, all right, wonderful, okay. In higher education, as you know, this is a very highly prized concept, and it's a concept that basically says that faculty members in the classroom have the right and have integrity to be able to really pursue their fields, their disciplines with full force without too much interference, quite frankly. And so we have a number of definitions that come from AAUP and other national higher education organizations. So that's the crux of it. As a faculty member, someone who's seeking truth, for example, are you able to really talk about your discipline? Are you able to explore this in a way that's pretty wide, that's pretty open, without undue interference? So that's the general definition, I would say. I think if I had to then contextualize it in terms of a place like PUC, which is a private religious institution, that 1940 statement of AAUP also says, well, religious institutions are a little bit different because we have different aims and we may have different goals for our student body and for our institutions. And so we do have a bit of, I want to say, a little bit of maybe I should say a bit of a leeway here to say what is the particular mission of your institution and what are the goals of and the aims of your institution. And so along with that, how will you then exercise academic freedom within the context of your particular institution? All of our academic institutions in North America have these statements on academic freedom. They're pretty much the same. We have boilerplate statements, I would say, from the General Conference, which really talk about the rights and the limitations of academic freedom. So I think we could all agree that academic freedom isn't just saying whatever you want to say in your classroom without due respect or attention to where you are and what the particular aims of your institution are, but they really are contextualized by, again, the mission, identity, core values, and core commitments of any particular institution. So maybe that's where I would start. And I want to set that context because again, there are rights and there are responsibilities, there are rights and there are also limitations. And maybe just a couple quick examples maybe. At a school like PUC, that is definitely a faith-based institution set up by the Seventh-day Adventist Church to fulfill its mission in terms of educating its young people primarily. There's some things that may not be appropriate in a given classroom. For example, if I had a professor who in the classroom was saying to you, there is no God, would that be appropriate?
No.
Not here, because again, I have a picture in my mind of the PUC seal, and the motto within the PUC seal says, they shall all be taught of God, right? So part of our core mission, our values, our commitments is to teach our students about God. I mean, that's very basic to everything that we're doing here. So if I had someone who was saying there's no God, there'd be some problems with that, right? And that person may not really maybe last here too long, I don't know. If I had someone on campus who was saying Jesus is not the Christ, would that person be appropriate in maybe a PUC classroom? As a teacher? Okay, and some of you might be saying yes, okay, but for those who are saying no, I think you're right. You know, again, we have certain basic values, certain basic commitments that we've committed to here, which I think is why you chose to come to PUC, and I think why we all chose to work at PUC. As I said before, I was at a big secular institution for 18 years. I made a lot more money. I had lots of friends. But I came to the Adventist system because I wanted to give back to my church and to give back to my own faith community. If maybe there was someone here on campus, again, a professor, who perhaps was saying it's okay to drink alcohol, I mean, not water. It's okay to do drugs. It's okay to smoke tobacco. Would that person be able to work here and continue working here? Okay, only a few no's. Society's changing, isn't it? But again, just a few kind of basic examples. But just to say again that, but when you agreed to come to school here, you signed a student life agreement, right? Of what you'd agree to do or not do, and affirming our core values. When we all agreed to come to work here, we also signed some commitments. And our faculty members and staff and all the administrators, we all signed also that we would adhere to the basic tenets of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we would live our lives in harmony with that as we teach and as we go about our daily work and our daily lives here on campus. So I actually have, again, this is just for your information, okay? But I actually have here the actual language from the contract that all of our faculty members do sign when they agree to work here year after year. And it basically says, PUC is an institution of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and operates to fulfill its goals. Therefore, the performance of all duties and obligations under this contract should be in harmony with the philosophy and purpose of PUC and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I think that's the context for me, is that every year we sign this because this is what we're signing on to, just as you're signing on to your student life agreement. And I think maybe that's the baseline for talking a bit about where some lines of demarcation might be, and where some parameters might be. And I think we can all agree that there are some limits, right, to academic freedom, especially in a faith-based institution like this that does have particular aims and a very special specific mission. So I think I'll stop there. I don't want to be lecturing too much. I really want to hear more from you and make sure I'm addressing what you would like to. I saw a hand out here.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ness. We'll come to you with the mic.
So, while I agree that at an Adventist institution, of course you don't want a teacher that you've employed saying that there is no God, that is saying these things. But wouldn't a successful education challenge the views of Shouldn't a successful education challenge your views? And isn't there a massive difference between a teacher that's employed by this institution saying that there's no God versus a teacher saying, here is somebody with a viewpoint different from ours.
I totally agree with you. I think one of the great things about being a National Liberal Arts College is that we are focused on the pedagogical aims and skills and outcomes that come from that. So critical thinking, investigative learning, skillful writing, whether I see your writing down here, right? All of those skill sets go along with being an educated person. And I tell you, we highly prize, I don't know, freedom here, and we really prize this notion of investigating all these multiple points of view. Because if you didn't have that, as you said, you wouldn't be in higher education. And as I said, we've all been to different schools, Adventist schools, non-Adventist schools, in and out of the system. We understand that, okay? I think, though, it's also about the perspective of people who may be invited to come here. What exactly is their perspective? What is maybe the controversial nature or of what they're going to say or not? How will that impact students? So I think all of those things have to be considered. And I think, as I said, there are some parameters on people who, I may invite and people maybe who I wouldn't invite. And again, why am I inviting them and with what aims? And am I inviting them to make like a hero out of this person or to, investigate a certain point of view? And also, who is the person? Who is the person is also pretty important.
Thank you, Dr. Knight. We have a question here.
My name is Edward. I'm a senior psychology major. And I think that just from hearing from what you've been speaking, I think you're kind of missing the point. So for example, with Ryan Bell, it's not so much that he's coming and he doesn't believe in God, it's the fact that, retract a little bit. As somebody that's going into the helping profession, wanting to be a psychologist, it's very important for me to be able to work with that diverse group of people. A lot of those people are not going to be believing in God. One of the things that Ryan Bell gives a perspective to is somebody who had a God and that he no longer believes in. And that's a very serious, I feel, psychological issue that needs to be understood. And I think that, honestly, you talk about academic freedom, but what it seems to be more influential isn't so much what Ryan Bell believes, what he's going to tell, or it's really his infamy, the public outcry that it brings when somebody is invited him. Like in my view, it's not so much what Dr. Fulton believes or what he says, it's the fact that he posts publicly on Facebook that's really more, causes this sort of reaction that's happening. So I think we have that.
Okay.
Let me say this. I think it would be helpful if a particular professor is thinking about inviting a very, very controversial speaker to this campus, that person would at least confer with the administration, with maybe the department chair, even say, listen, I'm thinking about bringing someone. Would this be a good person to bring? Again, given our particular context, our particular aims, our particular mission, given our constituents, all of those things have to be considered. And I think that just the courtesy, it would have been good to have the courtesy to say, what about this particular person? Let me share with you a little bit, for example. I'm on the Pacific Union Conference Executive Committee. And I was on the executive committee when Ryan Bell was defrocked, okay? As far as being a former Adventist pastor. So this wasn't just your generic atheist, let's say, out there come on and talking about atheism. This was a very, very, very controversial situation for the church, for all of us who were on that committee and were really trying to work with Ryan Bell. Ryan Bell's a PUC alum. Trying to work with Ryan Bell, trying to help to guide him back to the church and so forth. In the end, he was not defrocked until he publicly came out and said he was going to do this year without God. He was a pastor of the Hollywood church. So it was very, very controversial for us, very difficult for us. A lot of compassion and care was put into the whole decision. But finally, when he renounced the church and he renounced God, the union had to say, okay, he can no longer be a practicing Adventist minister. I think because Ryan Bell was just so controversial, I think he was not the best choice to bring.
So do you feel like it was more about Ryan Bell?
Wait, sorry, just 1 second. We have another question right
Okay, we have a question for you in the back.
So then is it more about the public outcry? Because that's, at least from our perspective, it seemed like it was more about the fact that people are complaining that he's coming than what, because when it comes to academic freedom, I don't feel like there should be a lot of bearing about what the outside people think, right? What do donors say about this? It really should be about, the bottom line should be, is this adding to our education? And I think that the psychology department can show they have a very strong record, right, of showing that they really do get the job done. We really do score very highly on these major field tests. We really do get into very good graduate programs. And so, I don't know, this is...
I think highly of the psych department here in social work department. In fact, I'm out and about posting about them all the time. But I think there has to be some care. I think the care too isn't, it does matter what happens on the outside because we are supported by the church. We're set up by the church, we're operated by the church, we're funded by the church. Our governance body, the board, consists of all of our, Seventh-day Adventist alums and members and union officers. And so it does matter when the union has taken an action. And that was a really tough action to have to take away Ryan Bell's credentials to then bring him here without any consultation at all or any consideration of how that would affect PUC and how PUC's reputation would be viewed. So I totally understand that it was a controversial decision. And what I do think is that in cases like that, when individuals know that we're going to have a particularly controversial situation, I think just common courtesy to the administration, those of us who are here to manage the institution, to make sure it's going in the right direction, okay? And we do have responsibilities to our larger constituents. We do. That even, I think, the chance to say, what do you think? Okay, would this be a good person or not? Unfortunately, that courtesy was just not exercised. The department chair wasn't consulted, the academic dean wasn't consulted, the president wasn't consulted. All of this could have been so avoided if just some consultation had taken place. And I think that's the courtesy of it that I would expect from any employee here at Pacific Union College. Again, knowing that our reputation is at stake. And it does matter, because I'll tell you what people say. People say, the union, for example, that had to defrock Ryan Bell, gives this institution $3.6 million a year. And also La Sierra, the Pacific Union invests over $7 million a year in these wonderful higher ed institutions, okay? So there is a give and take. There is a sense of responsibility, obligation, care about what happens, what they think, and how we represent them. And what people say is, why are we giving all this money, okay, which is also tithe money, by the way, to bring people in who might undermine our students' faith? And someone who the church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, had to take away their credentials because of what they were saying against the church and against God. So I agree, it's a very provocative situation. I wish that better judgment had been exercised up front, quite frankly.
Before we take our next question, I want to make sure that we get as much input as we possibly can. So we want to keep our questions very concise, and even our answers. We want to make sure that we can get as many comments as possible. We have a question here in the back, several here in the front.
Okay, if I could just add one thing too. I don't want to take the whole panel over. Obviously, I'm being asked about things.
Dr. Knight, it's all about you.
If any other VPs would like to comment?
It's all about you, Dr.
Just before we get to the more students, okay?
It's okay. This is all. They want to hear from you most importantly. So let's get to more questions, and then if you guys do have specific questions for other departments and other VPs, then please ask them directly as well.
And sorry, all of you guys in the front, I see your hands, so you don't have to. No, I see you guys, so you can take a break. I see you guys. Don't worry.
So my question is off this topic as well. I've worked in the SBA community since I was born, so I've been around this community, and I affirm that I've been gone. But I do understand that once we leave from PUC, we'll be entering a world where we will not be around activists all the time. We'll be open to different beliefs and people with different values. Would you ever be open to having an atheist, maybe not right now, come visit and talk about the atheist perspective? Because a lot of, especially people in the psychology and social department, they'll be working with people and just helping them out, that's kind of their major. Will you be opening them and learning and educating on that topic as them to know how to work with them and how to speak with them, especially if activists believe, our purpose here on earth is to connect with God, but how can we connect with God if we can't understand other people's beliefs who don't believe in Him?
I think one of the great things about being in a place like PUC is that we do train our students really, really well to be compassionate, to be of service, to have empathy. And I don't think that you have to have a Ryan Bell to come into your classroom or anywhere on campus to make that so. I think a lot of us know what atheism is about. It's saying there is no God. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. We don't believe that. The basis of our institution is that strong belief in God. Let me just say this, as I said to you before. Many of us here have gone to non-Adventist institutions. And I tell you what helped me the most, just to open my heart to you. As I said, I went to Howard University, and there was a sense of there wasn't really a God. There was a sense of faith was not very important. If you believed, if you had a faith, you were almost ridiculed as not being smart enough or not being sophisticated enough because you believe in God. What proof do you have of that? I decided to transfer from Howard when after during my sophomore year there, I did a paper for my history class, and I quoted the Bible. And my professor wrote in the margins, the Bible is not a credible source. At that moment, I decided to leave. I gave up a full scholarship. I was about to go to Oxford as a visiting scholar. I gave everything up and I transferred to Oakwood University. When I got to Oakwood, my faith was, I had wonderful professors again who gave multiple points of view, diverse perspectives, because they're all well-trained. They have doctorates, okay? But there was something there where, as I went on that faith journey, I had guides who were able to take me through the process, and I could still hold on to my faith. I could strengthen my faith. That was so important. When I left there and went to Loma Linda, similar. When I got to Stanford, I was at Stanford for 7 years. I had a really strong spiritual foundation. That helped me so much to navigate all of the different things that were coming my way as someone who believed in a secular school where people really didn't believe. And so I think we don't have to bring people in to undermine our faith. We can have those discussions in class. We can talk about it. We can go on an intellectual and we can go on a spiritual journey. And we can have professors here, as most of our professors are. Let's face it, we have wonderful professors here at PUC who can lead us on that journey, hold our hands, and also model how they're navigating the journey of faith and learning. That's what's different about Adventist schools, is the integration of faith and learning, seeing that body of knowledge through the lens of faith. You're not missing out on anything by not having Ryan Bell, believe me. You will have empathy, you will be able to show Christ's love, you will be able to get out there in the real world and interact with people and know what to do. We do not have to give someone a platform who's going to undermine our own beliefs. I mean, that's not necessary.
Hi, my name is Lexi. I'm a fourth-year social work major here. Less of a question, but just going off of what you were saying earlier about that there are a lot of considerations to take into account when you're making decisions. And I, for one, do not know all of the ins and outs of what it is like to be president of the college. However, I would like to say that I think it would be beneficial and definitely a way for the students to feel like they're having their voices heard if in situations such as bringing or not bringing Ryan Bell to the campus. And I'm not just talking about that specifically, I'm talking about anything in the future as well, is if there would be some way to be able to have the students involved as well. I know personally, being in the social work department, I wanted to hear Brian Bell speak. I'm sure in the future we're going to come across issues that are like this as well with other controversial topics. And I'm wondering if there's a way and if administration would be willing to work with the students to hear our voices and see what we have to say about the people who are being invited here and if we want to hear them speak. And I'm talking about on a voluntary basis for the students, not something that's mandatory for any classes in particular, but for our voices to be able to be heard and the people that we want to hear speak here at PUC.
Open to that. I'll tell you what's happening on the faculty side, okay? This is a conversation between administration and students, which we certainly are happy to be having this evening. The faculty, though, are the ones who are the most affected by this concept of academic freedom, especially in a faith-based institution, as I said before. So the faculty have been talking about this issue as well. And there was a faculty meeting held at the end of the winter quarter, where this was the focus of that faculty meeting. And have you had them voice their concerns if they have concerns? And I think what people were saying was, let's clarify what really needs to happen in a place like PUC. So different points of view were being voiced, okay? Last week, the Academic Senate, which again is the faculty body of leaders, our department chairpersons, they also met, and they really had an open meeting where they invited all staff to come as well. And I don't know if many staff showed up, but they were invited to come. And they talked about a proposal, okay? And I've been also talking with them in conversation and collaboratively about this, but they were floating the idea of an academic freedom advisory council that would consist of various heads of faculty, important faculty committees, rank and tenure, CCOM, committees like that. And if this were to come up again, a situation like this, the faculty member could go to this committee and say, what do you think? I'm thinking about bringing Donald Trump. Let's take a minute, okay? The campus. What do you think? You know, should we bring Donald Trump to campus or not? Okay? Is that a good speaker for a school like PUC? Just mentioning someone's name, that's all. Okay? And then that group advisory council could say, well, let's think about the pros and the cons of this overall, as you said, because it is a much bigger picture of what's going on with the institution. So overall, is it a good thing to bring this person? Is it a bad thing? What might the fallout be for PUC? You know, and so forth, right? And I think likewise, as the president, I could also make use of that particular council, and I could say, you know, faculty member X has approached me about bringing Donald Trump to campus. I'm not so sure he's the best person. He might be controversial, he might insult some of my students, he might cause a fight to break out, you know. I'm not so sure he's the right person. What do you think? And so I'm fully in favor of something like that, because it does put a little bit of distance between the president, let's say, and the faculty member, and it does give a chance to confer and to get different points of view, which I think is really, really important. And maybe the student member could also be a part of that council. So I think that right now we're kind of opening things up, and we're having talks with important constituency groups on campus, including you. And we're open right now to seeing, you know, if that was not the best process, what might a better process look like? So we're all saved the grief of what happened, okay?
Thank you, Dr. Knight.
Thank you, Dr.
We have a question here.
I'm going to start off by agreeing with one thing. I believe there's certain implementations that suggest that there could have been something done to convey the purpose of what Dr. Fulton was going to do. But from an unbiased perspective, and I apologize for one thing, I'm very long-winded because I'm from the South. So one thing I'd like to start off by saying is this. We are called to preach the Word of God into every creature. No ifs, ands, or buts, there's no clause about that. When you're talking about an atheist and bringing him into this society of an Adventist community, we're talking about more than just microphone. We're talking about more than just one person. See, every day is controversial in my life because sin tells me not to be faithful. Okay, and with the faith that you're describing, because you left the college to pursue what you wanted to in your faith. Aren't we called to do that same thing with every creature that comes to us? And we're implementing him into our society for one purpose. Whatever that purpose may be, I have an unbiased perspective because I don't know either party. But with that being said, the man is an atheist, known atheist. Okay, he decides to give up God for a year. Who are we to judge that? Who are we to say that this man isn't to come in this faithful community and we cannot change this man? Because I have a saying that goes against a lot of sayings, but you come as you are and you change as you follow Jesus. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. I was changed by Christ. I was probably just as far along as an atheist back in the day, but God changed me because I was implemented into that society. If we do not allow these people to come into our life, how do we expect to change their hearts and their minds? How?
We're going to change up just a little bit because we know people are putting their hands up and some hands were missing. We're going to ask you to line up. We're going to ask you to line up on either side. This means you're going to have to stand for a little while, but that way, those who are in line will get to speak first, and we're going to stand here, and you'll be able to address the administration.
And I'm guessing that we'll extend the time a little bit. Is that
Again, I'm still encouraging concise questions and statements and concise answers so that we can get it.
Oh, please don't leave. I wanted to answer your question. Don't go. Okay, what I wanted to say to this, okay, is that everyone is welcome here at PUC in terms of coming to our services, coming to our programs on campus. But when you talk about who do you choose to be speakers, you have someone who has already very, very publicly renounced God, renounced the Adventist Church, okay, in a very, very public way. And again, is on shows talking about it, is blogging about it. I think that's like a different thing of saying, how do we minister? Now, I'll tell you what I did. When the whole thing broke, I was actually at the NAD year-end meeting in Silver Spring at our church headquarters. Ryan Bell wrote me a letter. I wrote him back. And did you tell the letter I wrote back to Ryan Bell? I did. Yeah, I felt like, wait a minute, I'm Ryan Bell's president. He's a PUC alum. He's writing to me. I'm busy at these meetings, but I wanted to respond. I wanted to share with him why I thought he was not the best speaker to come to this campus. Okay? So just so you know, we're not leaving folks out of the cold. We care about everyone. We do want to minister to everyone, and I think there are different ways to do that based on where people are and where they have publicly announced that they are. Okay? So I would just say, we could disagree on that, that's okay, all right? But and what I'm hoping is that the students who come in here who do not have a faith or a strong faith, that somewhere in the 4 years here at PUC, that somewhere they will catch the fire of faith, and they will catch it from people like you who are on fire for God. Yeah, because Ryan Bell was already an Adventist minister for many years, who then had renounced his faith very, very publicly.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's how it was different.
Okay, Dr. Knight, we're just going to move on to the next
okay.
question.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that, no, we want to love everyone and care for everyone. I think that's a little different situation.
I think we all need to show respect a little bit now, please.
Oh, it's hot, all right.
Thanks for your comment. And again, I don't have to be the only person answering, okay? I'm open. I have a wonderful, smart team here with lots of great experiences. So again, I don't have to be the only person.
Okay, so I think everybody, it's pretty clear that the psychology department has been famous for its excellence for a really long time. So how do you account for the fact that in the last 2 years we've had 3 professors leave or be fired? And also, what are you going to do to help the people that are most directly affected by this, which is the psychology and social work department, in that we're losing our advisors, we're losing the people that we run to when we have issues, we're losing a majority of our teachers, if not all. What are you going to do about that? How are you going to make us feel better?
Let me start out by saying this. I highly regard every department here on this campus, including psychology, social work. No one up here asked any professors to leave. No one did, okay? We didn't want those people to leave. Those were individual choices that were made based on some other decisions. But no one here, we didn't fire anyone, we didn't ask anyone to leave, okay? In fact, we're sorry that they left and that they're planning to leave, because we want them here to teach you, as you said. They're wonderful academics, and they've been wonderful mentors, and so we didn't want them to go. No one, I have not asked anyone in that department to leave. I really haven't. Those decisions that are being made, unfortunately, are decisions that are being made by the individuals themselves, and I really can't do anything much about that, okay? I think, again, I have to say honestly, I did not ask anyone to leave, and I wish those folks were not leaving, and we're talking about individual choices, because I think in the end, you're absolutely right. It's the students who are gonna suffer. It's the students, and why should the students suffer? Now, having said that, let me say this. Once people make a decision to go, in any department here on this campus, we are going to replace them with wonderful people, okay? I believe the Lord has sent everybody here, administrators, faculty who are here to be at this place at this time to do the powerful work with faith and learning that we're doing. And I think that although I wouldn't want those people to go, although they are, some of them are going, that we will, with God's help, will replace them with other caring, wonderful people. That's the bottom line. But again, just to be clear, I did not fire anyone.
Sorry, I was under the impression that Dr. Fulton is being fired, so can you clarify what's going on with that, I guess?
Well, I can say that Dr. Fulton has not been fired, but I can also say that I can't say very much more than that about it, okay? Just as students, you understand confidentiality. As students, we have issues of, laws like FERPA, where we can't tell about what's happening in your private business. We can't tell about student conduct committee issues. We can't tell even your parents your grades. The parents sometimes call us, and we can't even tell them your grades because of the confidentiality and the privacy laws that we have to observe. Similarly, with our faculty and staff, we also are bound by privacy laws and policies, and so we can't go out and tell all the things that you might want to know. And let me just say this, students, I wish I could. I wish I could say more, because you're only getting one side of the story, okay? And if I could say more, you would get more than one side of the story. You'd understand more of what's going on. I don't want to focus on any one particular person, but since you raised Dr. Fulton, I'll just say this. Dr. Fulton and I have had many, many conversations, hours of conversations, okay? And right now, we're still continuing to be in communication also. So that's what I can tell you. And again, I can't say more than that, but it's not, something where we haven't talked. We've talked a lot. And again, I've talked to many faculty members here. And again, that's all I can say at this time about it.
Thank you, Dr. Knight. Question on this side.
Thank you. I want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that an atheist coming in, whether it be Ryan Bell or otherwise, Ryan Bell specifically was not coming to indoctrinate anyone into atheism. We were just gonna have a discussion about different ideas, and I think that should have been respected. And I think disinviting him shows a lack of faith in the student body. Because everyone here who is interested in having a relationship with God, it's not going to end in an hour because we are exposed to a different idea. I didn't come here to be pastored into the church. That's my battle. That's why I go to church, that's why I speak to anyone. I came here to be prepared for the real world, be prepared for an industry that I'm about to go into, whatever. I came here to be prepared for a job. And I came here specifically to a Christian college to be prepared for that and have Christian people be my mentors. Not for them to be telling me that only that is the only thing that I'm going to talk about. And taking that away from students, saying that these people can come in to talk to you about possible situations that are going to come up is a disservice to the student body. My final question is, this is not just about one faculty member. We all, as students, have formed a family with our faculty and our precise teachers and advisors, and we can see that there is an environment where no one can say anything or speak up because they are about to leave or they're afraid of getting fired. And I don't think that's right. And I think that's what we came here to address. This is not just one person, it's just a whole department of people leaving one by one. And regardless if they're not being fired, they're leaving for one reason. Or like for whatever reason, they're leaving for a reason. And that's what we want to know.
Okay. I guess what I would say is this, okay? As I said before, we have a lot of great teaching and learning going on here at PUC. I think I'm out and about a lot talking to PUC alums. We have a lot of alumni events. And PUC alums are very, very well prepared to be in the real world and to deal with real situations and to interact positively with many, many people who are not Adventists, okay? So I don't think that you've got to, let's say, have certain people here who don't share our faith background, but not even share it. You don't even have to share it, but who are definitely antagonistic to it, okay? And we don't have to give those folks a platform. I really don't believe that. And maybe you could tell me, is there anyone that you think wouldn't be appropriate to come to a place like PUC? Or would everyone be appropriate to come? So,
would be aggressive towards our faith. Someone that doesn't believe what we do, just existing, doesn't mean that they're...
I don't think you know, okay, I don't want to get into a lot on that, but I would say, I don't think you know the whole Ryan Bell story. And I don't want to get into that tonight, because I want to kind of stay more on general principles, because it may, Ryan Bell's over, but there might be other people who are coming, as you said. But I really feel like, there is something to think about here as far as what's appropriate, what's not, who is appropriate, who is not, and again, who will help us to build up our faith and who will not. And again, many guest speakers come to the campus all the time. Since I've even been here, I've really brought a lot of interesting speakers, I think, to colloquy, for example. I've had a Catholic nun, Sister Helen Prejean, who got a standing ovation. I had a Muslim, Ibu Patel, who came, who got a standing ovation. I've had Matt de la Pena. I've had lots of interesting people because I want to expose the student body to many, many diverse points of view. But I think there are some people who may not be acceptable. And I think there are some parameters and there are some lines of demarcation. And in the end, it is up to the administration to make some of those decisions. As I said, I think conferring is important up front. I think thinking about again, why is a particular person being brought? Is it really to build up your faith or just to hear about this? Or is it in some way to make this person into a hero or to say, I'm inspired by this person? So I think it's really, it really does depend, I think, on the whole context. And I think, again, the particular context that we're in does make it important that we're careful. And let me just say this too. The emails that I get as president, okay, are many, many different emails. And I get some of those emails that say, I sent my son or daughter to PUC, and in this or that department, they lost their faith. Or I sent my son or daughter to PUC, and their faith was undermined. I have students who come into my office now who basically say, I almost lost my faith. So I think we have to be very, very careful. I think you might be a stronger person, and maybe it won't affect you, but there are other people who will be affected and who have, maybe less of faith than you have. And I think we've got to be careful. I think there is a journey we have to take our students on intellectually and spiritually, but we've got to hold their hands and we've got to bring them back to a place of faith. Because it's hard when families say, oh gosh, I spent all this money. I sent my students to PUC, and in this particular department or that department or this professor or that professor, their faith was undermined and they don't believe anymore. And that's not what PUC is for. PUC is a place to have inquiry, to hear diverse perspectives, to even challenge things, but it's always a place to bring you back home to your faith.
Okay, well, what about my actual question? It seems like more than one document or science issue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get to that. Sorry. Yeah, okay. In my 7 years here as president, I have only spoken to one faculty member about any issue like that, only one. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. You can talk to, I see some faculty out there, but I have never gone into anyone's classroom uninvited. I sometimes give a guest lecture here or there when I'm invited. I have never asked to see anyone's syllabus. I have never gone on any kind of witch hunt with anyone. So it's just not the case that that's a prevailing thing that's been happening here on campus. It just isn't. In fact, this whole discussion started 2 years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, and it had to do with, again, just one individual. Thank you.
Okay, just before we take the next question, we're going to have to cut off, so no more questions. People lining up because we have 10 minutes. We're probably going to go to about 9:15, but we want to make sure that we get all of the questions in, and there might even be another topic. We're not sure.
Yeah, and let me just say that this is the beginning of a conversation, isn't it? The beginning of a dialogue. We are here to serve you. We're here to create the best possible learning experience for you. We can't stay here all night tonight. But believe me, if you want to meet with me or any of these folks here and have another town hall, just let us know. Thank you. No problem. Again, we're here for you.
Hi, I'm Renee, a senior social work major. And first of all, I would like to say that myself and most likely my social work and psychology colleagues would like to leave PUC being competent, and in order to be competent in our field, we must be exposed to diverse opinions and experiences. But on to my question. So one of the key ethical values that stood out to me, taught to me by my social work professors, is about respecting the dignity and worth of an individual, period. So it's not our job to change people, but we are to empower them. How can we empower people if we know nothing about them or only know one side of the story? And I'm specifically speaking about the LGBTQ community because the Adventist Church has a tendency to ignore this population or push them under the carpet. And in my field, this is not going to be acceptable, and we would like to be leaving prepared to empower, not change.
Let's get one of our other administrators, because they've been looking good up here. Let's get one of our other administrators to make a remark. It sounded like that was just a statement and not a question, right? That was a good statement.
Yeah.
So we're gonna.
And thank you for voicing it.
She didn't actually have a question. It is a question. It's how are we supposed to do that if we're not given if we can't talk about it, if we're only hearing one side of the story, or we're told that it's negative or unacceptable.
All right, let's hear from another administrator.
I don't think that you can't talk about it. I think it's being talked about in many, many classrooms here. I don't think at all that the things aren't being talked about. I think a lot of important topics are being talked about in our classrooms. And no one is trying to stop that.
Just a point of clarification, I think what she was saying is if they're not exposed to this, is that right? Then how can they not have
From an unbiased standpoint, because in the Adventist church we're told it's wrong or that you need to be changed. But as a social worker, I cannot be a social worker if I am trying to change someone who is part of the LGBT community. My job is to empower them. So if PUC can't accommodate that, maybe there shouldn't be a social work and psychology department here because we must be competent in this area.
And in fact, we have an accredited program in social work, and many of our programs on campus are accredited. So besides even what the professors themselves are doing, we have accreditation standards that we have to meet from our regional accreditors, WASP. So we have a very high standard that we have to reach on all of these areas. We have been reaching them. We have been maintaining them. There's no plan to change that. And as I said, many topics, I do know you're in the classrooms. Many topics are being discussed in our classrooms. No one is going around policing that or saying that topic should not
Let
be
me ask you this
discussed.
question really quick. I mean, it just came to mind as I'm listening to all the questions and statements. In your 7 years here, have you ever disinvited a guest speaker from the for the psych department?
No. This was the first time this happened.
Because I think that one of the things that I think I have appreciated about the PUC is that we do have one of the best psych departments in and I know how much you respect the faculty in that department as well. And so this is just, it's very powerful to see that in this situation, the first time this has ever happened, which I think is one of the reasons why there's been so many waves of concern and so on and so forth. But it's good just to see so many people coming out here and saying, you know, this matters to us, and we really want to discuss it. Because again, I guess the question you asked it earlier is there anyone that should be off the list, right? I mean, because we were talking about academic freedom and we should be able to hear other perspectives, but is there anyone we would say, well, maybe not this person, right? And it might be this situation with Ryan Bell that, again, some are on one side saying, I would love to hear from this person, and some are on the other side. Even for the pastoral staff, we talked about it in our meeting, and we said, wait, we would even like to sit down and speak with Ryan Bell, but then we also questioned, but I wonder if this would be the best form if we were to bring them here to the campus. So I think it's one of these situations that I think, and most of you probably would agree with this, that there's just conflict, even internally for us individually, that there would be just conflict on some of these, really these hotbed issues. So, but yeah, this is the first time that this has ever happened that a speaker for guiding for the psych department has been disinvited. Okay, let's get a couple more questions before.
Dr. Wilson, do you want to respond?
Oh, yes. What was the question?
Somebody just yelled out, Paulson.
We have a question here.
Oh, Dr. Wilson, do you want to comment? Do you want to address that question?
What he's talking about or your question?
I think what Renee's asking.
Okay, so here at PUC, we accept students, all students, and I think we have been welcoming and supportive. I do know that before President Knight came to PUC, there was a request for a GASP to be a club, and I think that's been a sore point for many years for students, that it is not formally recognized. However, at that time, administration decided that because we did want to support, not necessarily advocate or promote something that is against the church, that this would be allowed to continue as an informal group. So, you know, there's a really delicate balance, honestly. There's a very delicate balance when we are here as a Seventh-day Adventist institution and trying to be loving, respectful, listening, confidential, to be all of those things to all of our students, no matter, race, color, orientation, no matter what. And so I hope and pray that, especially in my student services area, that we are all that way.
Good answer.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Sorry, the question was, like, I understand what you're saying on this campus, But the question is, how are we as social workers and psychologists supposed to empower? That's the key word. How are we supposed to go out into the community and empower if here we're not taught to do that, or we are being taught to do that, but that's going to change because the department is...
Well, I don't think, okay, well, let me say this. All of our Adventist schools have departments of psychology and social work. And all of the professors in our Adventist schools find a way, again, to integrate faith and learning. And the principles that we are learning in social work and psychology are still being furthered. Andrews, for example, has a master's program also in this area, behavioral sciences in particular. Loma Linda has a PhD in this area. We can do a lot of advanced learning within the integration of our Adventist faith and learning. That's not anathema. Those two things are not antithetical to each other. By very skillful professors who have a strong faith and a great love of their discipline, they're able to help you to do that. And so all of our schools are doing that. And PUC has been doing that, and PUC will continue to do that.
Thank you. So no more follow-up questions. You have one question to ask. We have 15 more minutes. We really want to get through it. I'm going to have to play bad cop. Okay.
Hello guys, my name is Malik Sheen. I just recently wrote the article dealing with this whole issue, and I know it extends back to a long period of time. It's very long lasting, and there's a bunch of like intricacies and stuff. In regards to Fulton, you said he wasn't to be fired, but well, I guess my question is, I know this isn't just about the Ryan Bell incident, and I'm wondering, like, what were some of the complaints that you guys got that led you to the decision to maybe fire him 2 years ago? And yeah, like, because in doing my investigation for this article, everything I found was very one-sided. There's not much on your guys' side, like, portraying the side of the story. So I don't know if you can answer it too much, or I know there's like legal settlement things going on between you two, so.
Okay, as I said before, I would love to be able to divulge a lot of information because it would actually be better for us, for you to understand more. However, we are bound by the privacy laws, confidentiality, and I think there's a lot of misinformation out there because of that, unfortunately. And I'm sorry that you pretty much are getting one side of the story. But again, just know, as I said before, a lot of conversations have taken place. Conversations are still taking place. And I think I ask for your prayers as we work through different situations.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Smith. Like this? Okay. I'm Alexandra Smith. I'm a second-year psych major. With everything that's going on, I'm just wondering, what is the psych department going to look like? I'm going to France next year. When I come back, what am I coming back to? Will I be able to stay here and keep being a psych major? Will I change my major? Will I have to go to Andrews or something? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to us?
I'm very concerned about that, and that's why, as I said earlier, it would be my wish that the people who are leaving wouldn't leave, and again, no one has been fired, whether 2 years ago or now. Again, let me just say this. All of our departments have a lot of wonderful professors. Professors sometimes come and go. That department is definitely in transition right now. It was going to be in transition, I want to say anyway, although I didn't want it to be like that. Dr. Bruce Bainham just retired a couple years ago. Dr. Charlene Bainham was about to retire also. His wife, Dr. Greg Schneider, I think has one more year before he retires. And so this was a moment of transition. Now, we didn't want it to be a moment of disruption. Nobody wanted that, and we still don't want that. But again, people have made individual choices. I do believe, with every department on campus, God has brought people to us. We have posted the openings that are there. The school will go on. Again, positions have been posted. We've already interviewed 2 very fine people. Some of you know, you've interviewed a couple candidates. They're not coming, unfortunately, for different reasons, but there are fine candidates out there. And so, when the professors were going to retire or leave anyway, we were going to still have to replace them. We're going to go through a process that brings the very best people here. You will have a chance to interact with them as students when they interview, as you've done in the past, and you'll have a chance to give feedback as well. So there will be a strong psych and social work department. We're committed to that in every department on this campus. PUC has been here since 1882, and we will continue to be here strong.
Can I just add one quick thing? Dr. Nancy LaCourte is actively involved in this too, correct? And she happens to be in Spain right now, so she's unfortunately not here tonight.
Right, Dr. Nancy LaCourte has spoken with the social work students, also spoke with the psychology sophomores yesterday, because we are concerned. That's our biggest concern. It's you. It's that this is happening to you, and this disruption is being caused. We don't think it's fair to you. We don't think it's right. We'd rather it would not happen. But again, people are making choices, and I know we're getting the blame for it. I know that. But believe me, people are making their own individual choices. And again, we wish it were not so.
Okay, we have our next question. Dave Lawrence, we're going to see if you can answer this one, okay? It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one. All right?
Actually, I wanted you, Dr. Knight, answer this question as well.
Okay.
In your opening monologue, you said that any private Christian institution is going to have to delineate what the limits of academic freedom are. So my question is, under what reasonable ethic of academic freedom allows you singularly and unilaterally to decide what those limits are?
Okay. I have a job description which asks me to be the person in charge, the CEO of the organization, who has to take the weight. This isn't easy, believe me, it's not easy. To take the weight and to take the responsibility when controversial situations arise to help to make those decisions, okay? And that's what, listen, we all report to someone. As Jesus said to the centurion, we're all under authority, okay? I'm under the authority of the PUC Board of Trustees. They've hired me to do this job of providing direction and vision for this institution, to make it the kind of place where you want to be and others want to come as well, okay? Under me, I have vice presidents that they report to the president. That's how we're set up here. I have to say under, but the vice president supervises many others on campus. So every single faculty and staff person on this campus is supervised by someone. And we all are responsible to the folks to whom we report. So that's why I have a tough job. I want to tell you, it's a very tough job. It's a lot of responsibility, but that's why I have the authority to do that. That's been given to me by the PUC Board of Trustees.
I definitely agree that you have a tough job. I don't envy you, but the Psych and Social Work Department was able to exist as it was for 20 years before you came there. So my question is, what has changed?
I think the department has existed. I think that it will continue to exist. I think there will be transitions going on. Again, people are making certain choices. And again, I'm doing the role that I've been brought here to do. So I can't comment on exactly on what previous presidents may have done. I can't answer for that. But I do understand your question.
Thank you, Dr. May. Let's keep being respectful and positive as we talk about it.
I had a statement and then a question. My statement was, you said that we can't, if we bring people in, we can't like change people's faith or something like that, something along those lines. But the Seventh-day Adventist education wasn't created to change people's faith. It was, honestly, it was created for Seventh-day Adventist people. It wasn't created for anyone else. But because they are here, why is it that we're closing ourselves off and we're not opening ourselves up to other opinions and other think people. And so since the administration in education was agreed to change people's faith is for people who are already in the faith to continue in their lifestyle. And you said that people came here and some people lost their faith. I feel like if they lost their faith, it wasn't strong to begin with. If they were to go to any school, they would most likely lose their faith because it wasn't settled in their spirit. But, so that was my statement. My question is, I'm a freshman psych major, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do after this year because most of the psych professors are leaving, and I'm not sure what is going to become of the psych department because I personally, a lot of the freshmen and sophomore psych majors that I know personally don't even know that this is going on. We weren't aware that all the stuff that was going on in the psych department, we weren't aware that professors were leaving. The only reason I found out was because I went to WPA. And I feel like we should be involved, like all of the psych and social work majors should be involved in the process and should be made aware of everything that's going on. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, some of these announcements were just made, as far as, to be honest, I didn't know either. An announcement was made, I guess about a week or so ago, probably when you heard too. So it's not as if we knew and were sitting on information, but the timing of some of this, of course, has not been good timing. And one might want to ask oneself, why that particular timing, okay? Why is the timing of when certain things are being announced now, or certain things are being said? Environments, folks have been here 40 years, 30-odd years, 20-odd years. There's going to be a change anyway. Let's make it an orderly, seamless change for the sake of our students. For the sake of our students. But that is not being done. So the response that we have to have is that we are going to bring in the best possible professors for you to replace people who are leaving, and that's our commitment to our students. That's our commitment. And I believe that God is going to send the right people. There are many people out there. Not one of us here is indispensable. Not one of us. God has brought us all here as part of this very special learning community. If there's a time when He doesn't want us here, we won't be here. If we decide of our own free will to leave, we will leave. But again, God is able.
Amen.
He's got all these people out there
Amen.
who He will bring. And that's why I said, this school will go on. This school will go on well, with the strong reputation that we've had for many, many years. That's not going to go away. And again, I'm really, really sorry. I'm so sorry that you guys have to go through this. I really am.
Next question.
Hi, I'm so glad, and thank you all the vice presidents for being able to come tonight. And I'm very glad that you did mention that Dr. LaCourt is not here tonight, because that is what I did want to ask about. So can we be assured that her views on academic freedom are being expressed through the vice presidents here tonight? Was there any discussion on maybe being able to call her in? If she's in Spain, maybe there is a bit of a time difference. Is there any way then that after tonight you would be able to have Dr. LaCourt write a statement of her own, almost her opinion on what was said tonight?
Dr. LaCourt has actually written a statement. And it's not ready, I think, to go out right yet, but we said to her, Dr. LaCourt, we're so sorry you won't be here. Because of course she's the academic dean, it's so important for her to address academic topics, right? And as I said, she was able to meet with the social work majors a few weeks ago. And yesterday I said, Nancy, before you go, please meet with our psych majors, please do that. I wanted you to give them some reassurance. And so she was able to meet with the psychology, I think it was the sophomores. Any of you sophomores are out there? She came into your class yesterday? She went into a class with Alice, that Allison teaches?
Yeah, it was the freshman and you saw.
Okay, so I said, please, before you go, Tara, where are you? Okay. I said, before you go, please go and talk with those students. It was very important to me that she do that. She did take the time to do that. And she's also written something up that I think the VP for marketing has.
I don't have the final statement, but I can read a little bit of what and it was written for the faculty and not really addressing this situation, this group. And she expresses concern that the faculty may be feeling unsettled by recent events and expressions about academic freedom. And she has a couple points here. That PUC remains committed to academic freedom. We have always affirmed to ourselves and to our constituents and to WASC, which is our accrediting body, that we respect academic freedom as defined in our academic freedom statement, which is available to all in the faculty handbook. Again, this is addressed to the faculty. She wanted to make sure they don't forget that there is an active, ongoing campus discussion of academic freedom being led by a task force of thoughtful and respected faculty members. We have had animated but friendly discussions, both in faculty meeting and academic senate, and there will be more discussions to come. And then she goes on to talk about if they have concerns, who they can talk to on campus. And then finally, we have already posted the vacant faculty positions in psychology and social work department, and we're actively seeking candidates for these positions. We hope to find qualified replacements who will continue the fine teaching tradition which has characterized this department for many years. While we will miss Fiona and Charlene, we know that God can provide replacements. And then she asked that they continue to pray for the community and remain strong in a commitment to loving collegiality in these stormy times.
Thank you. A few more minutes.
Dr. LaCour definitely is supportive of the administrative team. We spent a lot of time yesterday in our ad council meeting talking about this. And again, seeing how we can work together collaboratively to make sure that we keep the best possible learning and spiritual environment here at PUC.
Great. Hi, my name is Nora Burkle, and I think the issue I want to address is just the student safety. And I think I'm going to have to just share something personal about myself. I really could relate what you said, that you went to a public school. That's the same for me. I went to public school my whole life. I grew up in France, which is like probably the most secular country, one of the most secular countries in the world. I was exposed to that. I was exposed to professors who would just tell us, in my opinion, God doesn't exist. And even though I wasn't raised Christian, that was always something that I thought was true, that God existed. And then when I came here to PUC, I thought, finally a place where people are going to understand me and I'm not going to have to do this anymore. But to be honest, this is my 4th year. I've never felt more alienated here than I ever have anywhere else before. I come from a Catholic and Muslim background. That's something that I was never comfortable sharing until this year, just because I always thought that people would just see me as an antichrist or as a terrorist or whatever. Last year, Amnesty International wanted to hosted 2 Muslim converts here, and at first I think they had a really hard time doing that. So I think my whole question is, how are students supposed to feel like they're safe? How are they supposed to feel like they belong if there's certain questions they feel like they can't ask? And I'm sure I'm not the only one in this position that when we feel like our identity is different, we feel like we're changing certain things our understanding, and whether it is your beliefs or sexual orientation. Isn't our theme home this year? And I feel like if there are certain things, it almost seems like it's censorship. And the thing is, I don't want to leave PUC with that feeling that I really belong here. And so I think that's my whole question, like how can we allow students to have questions so that they can truly feel safe? And I personally live in a Christian environment where it's what I expected to find, and I feel like I didn't really find that.
Again, I think I would just reiterate that I'm sorry you're feeling that way, and is this happening just this year, or you're saying it's been the whole 4 years that you've been here? You felt that way?
I mean, I think I was pretty optimistic when I got here first, but just one of the things that I've heard, that I've experienced, that I've witnessed, I just thought, this is not the kind of love that God or Christ taught us. And then I thought, maybe I'm going to find out more in the secular world, like, is this really what I have learned from PUC? And yeah, it's hard to say, but this is the conclusion I've made.
I'm sorry to hear that, especially your senior year. I'm really sorry to hear that. I do believe again that we are a place that has a lot of caring people here, caring people in the classrooms. A lot of things are discussed. You know that. You're in the classrooms. You're in the English department, the history department, religion, all over the campus. This is not just about psychosocial work. Many different issues are discussed honestly, and you can discuss them. I think it's not the issue itself, it's more how you do it, and how I think someone is a really good guide and mentor to lead you through a certain kind of discussion about any controversial issue. I can't think of a controversial issue that you really could not discuss here. I think it's how it's done, and I think it's why it's done. And again, the kind of guidance that you have from very caring, wise, and spiritually sound professors, I think that's the process. So again, I'm sorry that is your experience. I'm sorry, that's what I can say. I'd be happy to talk to you sometime in my office offline, just learn a little bit more about exactly what's going on. I'd be happy to do that. I talk to many students who come to see me. I'm always happy to kind of hear more. I was just meeting with someone this morning for a couple hours, and let me just say this too. I think because we are 81% Adventist students here, and because we are an Adventist environment, it is more difficult for students who are not Adventist. And that's something that we really have been working on. We did a whole diversity inventory. The question for our senior essay last year was about diversity, and we actually ranked very high for how we handle diversity. But one aspect that we didn't rank so high on was the issue of students who are non-Adventists and how we integrate them into our Adventist learning community. So I think we're still learning about that, and we need to do better there. I also think the person I met with this morning was an older student, and she was saying to me, I love it at PUC, but I'm an older student, and you guys are so set up for the 18 to 22-year-old that you kind of leave me out, And she's also a graduating senior, and she was saying, how can we make it better for older students like myself who really want to belong here as well and want to feel like it's home? So I think you're right. We have some work to do. We have some work to do in that regard. And I'm happy to talk to you individually to hear a bit more about your experience and to see how we can improve in terms of folks who are here who are not of our faith, and just students who perhaps are not the typical students like many of you might be, the typical 18 to 22-year-old.
All right, we're down to our last few questions.
Hi, my name's Caitlin.
Hi there.
First, I'd just like to thank you for speaking with us. I know that we really appreciate it. One of the things that I know is on a lot of our minds that we would love for you to address is we feel that our opinions aren't as valid as the opinions of donors who... decisions that are made because we need donations and we need that for the school to even continue, but alienating the students is going to drop enrollment lower than it already is, and that's just something that
I don't know where the impression has come from. I've seen it out there also on different places, okay? That this is all about pleasing donors. It really isn't. We get a healthy amount of donations, but it's not about that. It's really about staying true to our mission and our core identity and commitments and values. That's what it's about for us. It's not about donors, because to be honest, we don't really have, we're not Stanford. We don't have $21 billion in endowment. We don't have huge donors. We wish we did. It just isn't about donors. I've heard people say this, but I just want to say it's not about donors. Okay.
So let me just add really quickly that first of all, let me start with love and then some perspective. I've got a lot of love for all of you out there, seeing you in front of us, and it's not just because I'm going to ask you for money when you graduate. It's because it is so exciting and powerful for us to see the student body out here so engaged in a wonderful, respectful give and take. But let me make the point, reiterate the point about Dr. Knight that she made. Our donors are actually you, our students. You are the future of this college and of our mission. We have to do everything we can to ensure that we pursue the mission of PUC for you and on your behalf. Because if we don't do that, you will not be able to get a job, you'll not be able to be productive members of society, and you won't get back to your school. So I can attest personally, trying to get on Dr. Knight's calendar and not being able to, do you know why? Because she was meeting with a student. I've worked for many people before, many bosses, many different administrations, and I have never seen the kind of love and respect that I've seen on this campus that a top administrator like your president has for each and every one of you. I walk with her from the cafeteria to her office, and it takes double the time. Why? Because she's saying hello and hugging students.
Amen.
She has a closer connection with our students than with some of the people that we interact, and we want her to have a close connection with everybody. So it's just kind of my perspective, what I see every day. I try to get on her calendar, and she's meeting with students. So there's a lot of love that's reciprocated. And let me just say that another reason why I'm so happy to be here at PUC, let me just finish with this, and it has to do with that kind of atmosphere of freedom to discuss, is that I went to Berkeley, and for a school that is the so-called leader of the free speech movement, I felt bullied as a Seventh-day Adventist at Berkeley in my classroom, because bringing up God was not allowed and it was squashed. Bringing up the idea of intelligent design in a science classroom was immediately cut down. And I used to come to PUC on weekends to see my friends and hang out here. And it was such a wonderful environment of true freedom and that marketplace of ideas. And now coming back to PUC and working, I see this perspective, I've got that perspective from coming from a public school, and the incredible amount of academic freedom that PUC has compared to some of these schools that are so-called bastions of free speech. It is about you. It is about you and the future that you hold for this school.
If I could just say one quick thing on that. Do you happen to have a check in your pocket?
Yes.
Okay. May I have it? Just got a check today in the mail for $1.1 million. Wow. $1.1 million. Guess what? It did not come from a Seventh-day Adventist. Guess what? Did not come from a PUC alum. Came from someone in the community that we didn't even know. But someone who was very impressed with PUC and the impact that PUC was having in this local community. And when that person passed away, he left us $2.6 million. Wow. We just got the second check today for $1.1 million. What I want to tell you is that God provides. I know God provides. So I don't worry about what I'm thinking of donors. I worry about, am I meeting what God wants me to do in terms of leadership for His institution? That's what I'm concerned about. And the best environment for learning for all of you. And again, we want open perspectives. We want a lot of ideas, a lot of exchanges. And I think your professors are giving you that. But again, academic freedom. There are some rights, there are some responsibilities. There are some rights, there are some limitations. And again, it's a tricky balance.
Okay, thank you. One more question over here. Okay, all right.
Hello, my name is J2. I'm a senior psychology major. I just want to thank you all for taking your time, providing a space for us to all express our opinions and to have a respectful conversation. To be honest, I did not plan on coming up here and really saying much. I know a lot of my colleagues have spoken for me. I know that the same feelings that they feel, I feel. And I know that this is not exclusive. This could happen to any department, not just the psychology and social work department. However, I'm up here right now because when I walked in, I saw someone who I invited walk out, frazzled, and I asked them, what's wrong? And she had told me that someone from administration approached her and said that she needs to leave, and who are you, and what are you doing here? She's not a student, but she's an alumni, and I thought that thought it was really interesting, and I didn't understand why. And then she had said that public safety had approached her and asked to escort her out. And that was another thing that I didn't understand. And then she had said that Dr. Knight had approached her and asked her who she was. She said who she was, and then you said, don't ask any questions. How are we supposed to feel like this is a safe place? What is happening to faculty? What is happening to adult people? It makes the students feel like, what will happen to us? What kind of voice do we have, and how do we feel safe? My question is, why is there so much censorship? Why do we feel like we have to watch out for what we have to say and what's going to happen to us?
Yesterday when the students came to my office, about 75 students came over marching to my office, and I was given a sheet of paper requesting a town hall between the students and the administration. And very, very quickly, the chaplain said, we'll host it, we'll sponsor it under Current. And we said, great, let's do this right away. I think the intent was the administration and students. Because the faculty had already had 2 different forums where they discussed academic freedom, again, the faculty meeting in March, and last week's academic senate meeting, where staff were also invited to come, we felt we just really wanted to have an intimate conversation with students. We didn't really want all the faculty and staff that I see out there, okay? We thought this is really for us, with our students, our own students. We love our students. So I think that's why when the word somehow went out today, a lot of folks thought, well, they're going to go ahead and come. So when that particular person that you were talking about was approached, because I had said, I would rather if we would perhaps just ask faculty and staff not to come. And then when I spoke to her, I said, listen, I understand you're here. And she said, a student asked me to come. I said, okay, by all means stay. But please just, if you could not ask any questions, because we really want to have this dialogue with the students. And knowing that we have a limited amount of time, we didn't want to have faculty, because again, faculty, they've had a chance to speak twice now in their own appropriate venues, and staff had a chance last week to go if they wanted to go, and so we thought, this is really for students. We don't have a chance very often to have this kind of give and take with students, and we just really wanted to protect that, so I really apologize if that person was hurt. Again, I went over and spoke to her personally and just said, look, you can stay. We're not trying to hurt your feelings or anything. So if I need to apologize again, I'm happy to do that, but that was the intent. Again, let me just say this to you, and I guess I have to ask you all this. And if the faculty were here, I would ask the faculty this, you know. I think that what's happened in psychosocial work has kind of spilled over, okay, to be honest with you. And other departments have not really been in the same situation. And I think maybe that's why some of the fear is bubbling up. Will it happen here? Will it happen there? But it hasn't really happened anywhere else. And truthfully, it's only happened with one particular faculty member. So we have 100 faculty members here. Some issues have come up with one particular faculty member, and you know what I'm talking about. And so, is that a reason then to say we're censoring, or, you know, no, it's not. We're talking about one particular situation that's come up in 7 years. Again, I'm just talking about my own administration here, okay? Certainly, in any organization, you're going to have things that come up. You're going to have some personnel issues from time to time. Things come up. When you go out into the real world that you're all preparing to go into, you're going to see things in the real world. Organizations that you work for, there may be personnel issues. All organizations have policies. All organizations have their different standards. All organizations have their mission statements, what they stand for. If you get a job at a particular company and they say, look, the appearance standard policy is you have to wear a suit to work every day, and you show up in jeans every day, you're going to have some issues. Perhaps your supervisor is going to talk to you, right? And if you continue to wear jeans to work every day, when the dress code says something else, again, you may have some issues. So I just want to say this. We are an organization, we're a learning organization, but we do have a specific mission. We do have a specific identity. We have a specific set of guidelines. You've agreed to that when you came to PUC. We agreed to that when we signed on to come to PUC as well. And the vast majority of students here and the vast majority of faculty and staff here understand that. When they signed that document, when they signed on to come, they have honored those commitments. And that's what's really important to us. From time to time, personnel issues will arise, okay? And we wish they did not, but we're...
So I'm just going to read from the faculty handbook for 2015, the heading Faculty Rights, Privileges, and Limitations, page 41, where we talk about academic freedom limitations. And I'm not reading, again, page 41 if anyone wants to look. It says, the church expects that teachers in the church's educational institutions will not teach as truth what is contrary to those beliefs. Teachers who hold views in conflict with the published fundamental beliefs will not present their ideas to students or in public forums without first counseling with their peers. So, my interpretation of this is that this definition is a little bit subjective as who are peers per se, and I just want to understand or better understand what that means and why there is a conflict, because to me that's really straightforward, and I want to understand why there's a conflict with that. If that makes sense.
Sure. I have a copy of that in my briefcase as well, by the way. And I think that's something that students should look at. The faculty are spending time looking at that academic freedom statement right now. And I think you're right, it's pretty straightforward, okay? Again, the church does not want a faculty hired by their institutions to teach as truth what the church does not believe is truth. And I think the church has every right to establish those parameters. The church has First Amendment rights, as do our schools, to set up institutions that promote their values and promote their beliefs. Now, you're right, who are the peers? Someone might say, my peers are fellow faculty members. I think that's who the peers are. It's fellow faculty members, okay? Now, are those just faculty in my own department? Or are they faculty members maybe all over campus, you know? So let's say I'm in psych social work. Should I try to go and see Dr. Whitmer and say, wait a minute, you're a religion professor. What do you think about this, right? Or is it just people, perhaps in my own department, who pretty much share my views? I think that's why I do like the idea I mentioned earlier, that the Academic Freedom Task Force is recommending that we would a kind of a standing, a little advisory council, and when these issues come up, that group would constitute also some of the peers. Because if the peers are just in your department, there could be a sense of groupthink, where everyone's kind of thinking the same, they've been together a long time, they have similar views, they have the same epistemology for their disciplines, and so that's how they're thinking about things. But I think the peers, if the peers are a broader group, you may get a better cross-section of feedback on whether or not what you're teaching as truth is something that you should be teaching as truth or not. So I think that is a very good point. Who gets to determine that? And that's why I do like the idea of the advisory council, because it would just give you a little bit more diversity, let's say, in terms of people from different disciplines, who then could weigh in on what's happening or what could possibly happen. What, you know, we all need feedback. It's good for us. I mean, in much counsel is much wisdom. The Bible says that. I think as much counsel as we can get about what we're thinking about is helpful to us.
Yeah, so I'm really glad that we're establishing a task force, and I think moving forward that's really, really important. But I guess just a comment on that is kind of, if these incidents happened with this handbook in mind, then I think that's what a lot of students are really upset about, because right here, peers just as peers. It doesn't say, you know, this specific group, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that for the future, I think that's great, and we should maybe more clearly define it here in our handbook so there's, you know, it's airtight. But I think for now, that seems to still be a problem since it happened with this handbook. And I guess that's what I'm trying to express, and I think a lot of people have been trying to express like this entire night, and I don't think it's been addressed.
Well, I think one thing I would mention, Talia, is that, as I said, I think part of the problem that happened with this Ryan Bell situation kind of flew around proportion is that no one was consulted. No peers were consulted at all, okay? That was part of the problem. The department chair was not consulted. The academic dean was not consulted. Other peers around campus were not consulted. You know, even the courtesy of this thing, I know the president is really sensitive about these issues. It's her job to represent the institution. When those negative feedback comes, it's going to come to her desk, right? How is she guiding the institution? How is she advancing the institution in terms of our core mission and core values and so forth? So I think just the courtesy of counseling with peers. I think if some counseling with peers had been done, this may not have happened at all. And then all that's kind of led to this angst, a sense of anxiety about this, again, wouldn't be going on right now. So, okay, we have to learn from our mistakes, okay? We're a learning community, we have to learn from our mistakes. We're all trying to learn to do better the next time around. So I really do think that's it. But I think if some consultation with peers, as is required in the handbook, had taken place, I don't think this would have happened, and we wouldn't be here having this conversation tonight.
So no other faculty was consulted at all?
No one was. Yeah, and that was said in writing. Yeah.
Okay. This is not a question. This is a statement.
Just to point out, Dr. Knight and the whole panel right now, working with you closely in the office and stuff like that, I see how much you do and how much all of you guys do for the school. And just like knowing the hard work you guys put in and like with all this, having to deal with issues in your own home, at the school, with all the board you guys are doing and stuff like that, I really applaud you for being respectful throughout this whole process and being very professional about this whole process. So thank you guys all for just being able to do this again. And
in one voice I was really looking forward to hearing from, so Dave Lawrence, say something. Say something. Something funny, come on. This is our resident comedian. Oh, here we go. Take the president's mic.
I'm just happy to know that there is financial freedom on campus.
Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for keeping it hot.
We love you. We want to hear more from you. Feel free to send me an email. Come by my office. Again, we're here to serve you. Thanks again and good night.
Go in peace.
I shot the whole thing on this, so if you didn't catch the live feed, look out on YouTube for this. This is a camera